UFC 309 was the first time I had ever witnessed a fighter fraud check themselves. The Bo Nickal Paul Craig fight was pretty abysmal. That was pretty horrendous. And look, if you just take that fight as a vacuum, you know what I mean? Two no-name fighters going out there having that performance, I mean, whatever. But that's not what the fight was. It was Bo Nickal. It was Bo Nickal. And Bo, your competition is Hamzat, and that is how you chose to go out there and fight. That is essentially the crux of this entire thing. The game plan of Bo Nickal was horrible. It was terrible. It was really, really bad. It was almost as bad as the post-fight interview Bo did, where he tried to appeal using logic and reasoning to the stadium of fans booing him. He said, no, guys, no, I actually did really good. I did a really good job. I don't know why you guys are booing me. I did really, really good. And that might have been the worst thing he could have possibly said in that moment. And yeah, again, I don't think I've ever witnessed more of a PR disaster than I witnessed in that moment. And you got to understand, I'm saying this as somebody who has always defended Bo Nickal. I feel like people have been slandering this poor guy for a very, very long time. You got to understand, Bo Nickal came into the UFC 3-0. All right, 3 professional fights and he came into the UFC. And after the very first one, every single comment regarding Bo Nickal was something along the lines of, when's this guy going to fight somebody good? When's this guy going to do something impressive? I'm tired of waiting for this guy. Hurry up, do something. And it's like, dude, look, the only reason Bo Nickal came to the UFC that early was because he could not find fights on the regional scene because he's Bo Nickal. All right, you remember how young and green and spotty Khabib was when he first came into the UFC? I mean, compare Khabib, his very first UFC fight, to his very last UFC fight. Two completely different people there. And that was after 15 professional fights. 15! And I mean, not to mention that Khabib had about 1 million combat sambo matches prior to that, which is essentially just, fucking MMA with a gi top on, alright? So you gotta cut Bo just a little bit of slack there, just a little bit. And the other complaint I'd always hear about Bo Nickal is, dude, you think this guy's good? He barely could control Cody Brundage on the ground. I mean, that's just not true. That's just not true. That's just not true. People just aren't remembering that fight right, okay? Cody Brundage had one singular moment where he caused a scramble off one of Bo's takedowns. One moment. I mean, that scramble didn't even do anything, all right? Other than that, Bo, every time he took him down, Cody could not get up. Cody was just completely and utterly 100% outskilled, and he got submitted in the second round. All right, but apparently he barely was able to do it. It's just simply not true. But after this performance against Paul Craig, I can't defend him here. I can't defend him here, and it all comes down to the game plan was dog shit. It was dog shit. I'm sorry. It was a terrible, terrible game plan. He decided he wanted to try to strike with Paul Craig, and that's not a bad idea, all right? Look, I understand what you're trying to go for there, but here's the thing. Bo Nickal's not a good striker yet. He's not a good striker. He was going for the exact same punch over and over and over and over and over and over again, and again, look, he is very, very, very green in the striking. Okay, I get it, right? And I understand he probably wants to develop his striking a little bit for sure, but save that for sparring, save that for training, okay? You have to put on good performances. You absolutely have to, and Bo Nickal had the opportunity to make a statement against Paul Craig, to take him down and maul him on the ground, and again, there is zero reason why he shouldn't have done that. There's no reason why he shouldn't have done that. There's no reason. I mean, of course, everybody immediately was like, well, yeah, Bo's just nervous about the submissions. Well, I got 2 things to say about that, and we're going to get into this shortly. But did you know that Bo Nickal had a grappling match at the UFC Fight Pass Invitational against a top 10 grappler in the world at that weight class? And Bo did not get close to getting subbed? Did you know that Bo Nickal had a grappling match with the greatest grappler to ever live, Gordon Ryan? And, that was only after 3 jiu-jitsu classes ever. And, Gordon had to actually work to submit him. He actually had to really set it up. Did you know that? And 2, Paul Craig, look at his record. He can only do one submission. Maybe two. He's got an armbar triangle. That's it. That's it. Paul Craig's got a good armbar triangle. That's literally all he has. Aside from one win by rear naked choke, this is all he's got. This is the one submission you need to worry about with Paul Craig is an armbar triangle. That is it. Look, I understand if you're fighting somebody, to a Charles Oliveira level of submissions or a Brian Ortega level of submissions. Look, I get it. You do not want that guy jumping on your neck as soon as you grab a hold of his legs. And that is a real fear. But Paul Craig doesn't have that. Paul Craig doesn't have that. If you look at Paul Craig's last win against Munoz, Munoz took him down twice. Paul Craig didn't even try to go for a guillotine. It's not a part of his game. Paul Craig is not a good positional grappler. He's not. Again, he's got a really good armbar triangle, but when you get chest to chest with him, you pass his guard, he's fucked. He doesn't know what to do. Brendan Allen mauled him, okay? And let me just break something to you guys. I know some of you aren't going to want to hear this, but Bo Nickal's good. I'm sorry, he's very, very good, okay? A lot of people after that fight go, oh, Khamzat's going to maul Bo Nickal. Okay, look. Khamzat, of course, would win in a mixed martial arts fight against Bo Nickal. That I completely understand. But, if they had a wrestling match, Khamzat would get fucking daddied. Khamzat would get destroyed by Bo Nickal. Bo Nickal is a U23 world champion. You know how Russian wrestlers always destroy American wrestlers? Just because, in Russia, the culture around wrestling is a lot bigger than it is here? Well, in the finals of the U23 World Championships, Bo Nickal went up against a Russian, and Bo Nickal destroyed him. He destroyed him. This was a fucking mercy match. Bo Nickal was up by 11 points. This match was not close. You cannot compare Khamzat wrestling in these little tournaments in Sweden to this. These are two very, very different levels. Again, no, Khamzat would win in a mixed martial arts fight. He is the way, way, way more well-rounded fighter by a country mile. But, specifically, people are saying, no, Bo would get mauled. Bo is a better wrestler. He is a better wrestler, and you have to look down the line with Bo. You have to. But regardless, Bo Nickal had a grappling match for the UFC Fight Pass Invitational. He went up against a guy named Oliver Taza. Oliver Taza, in his weight class, is a top 10 grappler in the world. He's medaled at the ADCC trials. He's competed at ADCC. He just competed at the 2024 ADCCs. He trains under John Danaher at the most prestigious grappling school in the entire world. And here's the kicker. Whenever an MMA fighter goes up against a pure jiu-jitsu guy, they say no leg locks, no leg locks. No, don't leg lock me because you guys are too good at leg locks and I'm not good at leg locks, so don't leg lock me. I'm an MMA fighter. Bo Nickal didn't say that. Bo Nickal said, no, yeah, we can do leg locks, we can do heel hooks, we can do whatever you want. Bo Nickal defended the heel hooks, by the way, very, very well, and he did really, really, really good. This was an extremely competitive match against a top 10 pure grappler in the world. Oliver Taza is 1,000 times better than Paul Craig when it comes to grappling. 1,000 times better. It's not close. And Oliver Taza was not getting close to submissions. He never really got deep on anything. Okay? How about the time Bo Nickal went up against the greatest jiu-jitsu practitioner to ever walk the face of the planet? Bo Nickal had only ever done 3 jiu-jitsu sessions prior to this match. All right, and look, yes, Gordon did end up triangling Bo, but it wasn't the easiest thing in the world for him to do. It wasn't the easiest thing. He had to work for it. He had to try. He had to set it up using a shoulder crunch. And this is the greatest jiu-jitsu practitioner to ever live. That's not Paul Craig. Paul Craig is not even close to these prior 2 names I've given. So again, Bo Nickal had no reason not to try to take Paul Craig down. Yeah, you got to watch out for the armbar triangle, but Bo could have 10,000% taken him down into side control, smashed him, passed his guard, took his back, and choked him. Okay, there was nothing stopping him from doing that. And again, look, if I had to take a wild guess, I just think Bo wanted to get the knockout. That's what he wanted. That's what his entire game plan was. It wasn't coming together, and he never switched his game plan. So, look, I understand what his thought process might have been. But, again, your competition, Bo, is Khamzat, whether you like it or not. Okay, you got to go out there and make a statement. And it just sucks to see somebody who was 10,000% capable of taking down Paul Craig and mauling him, and he just didn't even try. He just didn't even give it an attempt. Didn't even give it a solid attempt because he just was way one-track minded into knocking him out with the exact same punch thrown over and over and over and over and over again. And it was poor. It was fucking poor. And I think, again, the worst thing was Bo's post-fight speech. He should have looked at all of those booing fans and said, hey, you guys don't like it? Well, watch, I'm going to beat Hamzat by boring decision too, and then you guys are going to be cheering, or something along the lines. You cannot appeal to the audience like that. You can't try to use logic and reasoning when they're booing you. All right, you got to go full WWE mode on that one. And look, I hope Chael Sonnen sits Bo down and has a long talk with him about all of this because, you know, again, he's got to work on the PR. He's got to work on the game plans. You know what I mean? It was just fucking poor. Again, he fraud-checked himself. Completely fraud-checked himself. I think he needs to go back down to the prelims. I think he should not be fighting anybody ranked yet. He should not be fighting anybody ranked. The UFC, it's funny, the UFC kind of has this habit of forcing fighters down our throats. And I get it, right? You give Bo Nickal the opportunity because he is a big name with a ton of potential, but he's not ready yet. All right, he's not ready. He needs to go right back down there. He needs to grind out some more wins, kind of build his confidence a little bit. I just don't think he's confident, and I don't think the booing fans are going to be doing him any favors. You know what I mean? So, you know, yeah, Bo Nickal fraud checked himself. He absolutely did.